Villarat invasion story was a cover for Buhari's illness, says Garba Shehu. Bayo Ojulari, NNPC considering sale of refineries, rehabilitation becoming more complicated. US denies political motive behind visa validity reduction for Nigerians, says restrictions not about deportees or BRICS membership. Senator Natasha appeals 5 million naira contempt fine over Facebook post, says judge lacked jurisdiction. Nigeria secures 44 terrorism financing convictions in phase 7 trials, says National Security Advisor. Police arraigned 22 suspects over of wedding travelers in Plateau. Summary of the news. Villarat invasion story was a cover for Buhari's illness, says Garba Shehu. Garba Shehu, former media aide to ex-President Muhammadu Buhari, admitted in his new book, according to the president, Lessons from a Presidential Spokesperson's Experience, that the story about rats invading Buhari's office in 2017 was fabricated. The intention was to distract the public from growing concerns over Buhari's health after his long medical stay in the UK. When Buhari returned to Nigeria and chose to work from home, suspicions were fueled, especially following claims by IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu that Buhari had been replaced by a Sudanese clone named Jibril. To redirect media attention, Shehu claimed that rats had damaged wires in the president's office, making it unusable. The story gained international attention, including coverage by BBC. Despite criticism and disbelief, Shehu said the narrative served its purpose by shifting public discourse away from Buhari's health. However, key officials like Vice President Osinbajo and Minister Lai Mohammed disagreed with the strategy. Bayo Ojulari, NNPC considering sale of refineries, rehabilitation becoming more complicated. Bayo Ojulari, CEO of NNPC Limited, has acknowledged that efforts to revamp Nigeria's state-owned refineries are becoming increasingly complicated. Despite significant investment and the introduction of new technologies, some have not delivered the expected results, especially given the age and prolonged neglect of the refineries. While the Port Harcourt refinery briefly resumed crude oil production in November, it was shut down again in May for maintenance. Rehabilitation work is still ongoing at the Warri and Kaduna refineries. Ojulari revealed in an interview with Bloomberg that the NNPC is currently reviewing its refinery strategy and expects to conclude the process by the end of the year. He noted that the outcome of the review could lead to changes in their approach and hinted that selling the refineries is one of the options being considered, though no decision has been made yet. US denies political motive behind visa validity reduction for Nigerians, says reduction not about deportees or BRICS membership. The United States mission in Nigeria has clarified that the recent reduction in the validity of most non-immigrant visas for Nigerians citizens is part of a global security and technical review not driven by politics or Nigeria's ties to blocs like BRICS. The new policy limits most visas to single entry, 3-month validity, but does not affect visas issued before July 8, 2025. US officials emphasized the move aims to protect the integrity of the immigration system and reaffirmed their commitment to strong US-Nigeria relations. Meanwhile, Nigerian Foreign Affairs Minister Yusuf Tugar confirmed that Nigeria rejected a US request to host deported asylum seekers, including Venezuelan prisoners, citing domestic challenges. Amid speculation, the Nigerian presidency also denied reports that it had stopped issuing 5-year multiple entry visa to US citizens, calling such claims false and affirming that existing bilateral agreements remain in effect. Senator Natasha appealed 5 million naira contempt fine over Facebook post, says judge lacked jurisdiction. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has appealed a federal high court judgment that found her guilty of contempt and imposed a 5 million naira fine for a Facebook post allegedly violating a court order. The post was linked to sexual harassment allegations against Senate President Godswill Akpabio, not the ongoing court case about her suspension. Justice Binta Nyako had ruled that the post breached an earlier directive prohibiting public commentary on the matter. In her appeal, Akpoti-Uduaghan argued that the court lacked the authority to punish a comment made outside the courtroom and that the contempt should have followed criminal trial procedures before a different judge. She also claimed the fine was excessive and that the judge went beyond the relief sought by Akpabio, effectively introducing her own punitive measures. The senator maintains her Facebook post was unrelated to the main suit and insists it was a satirical apology on a separate issue. She now seeks to have the entire judgment overturned by the Court of Appeal. Nigeria secured 44 terrorism financing convictions in Phase 7 trial, says Office of the National Security Advisor. Nigeria has secured 44 convictions out of 54 individuals arraigned in Phase 7 of terrorism trials at the Kainji Detention Facility, with sentences ranging from 10 to 30 years of hard labor. The trials held across 4 federal high courts are part of ongoing efforts to combat terrorism and its financing. The remaining 10 cases were adjourned. Key officials, including representatives from the National Security Advisor and the Attorney General of the Federation, emphasized the government's commitment to justice and rule of law during the trial's opening on July 9, 2025. In Phase 6, 200 convictions were recorded out of 237 cases, with several penalties including death sentences and life imprisonment. Offenders were guilty of atrocities such as murder, abductions, and attacks on communities and religious sites. So far, Nigeria has achieved 785 convictions in terrorism-related cases, reflecting a strengthened criminal justice response and efforts to dismantle extremist networks. Police arraigned 22 suspects over of wedding travelers in Plateau. On June 20th, a mob in Mangu local government area, Plateau State, ambushed and attacked a group of travelers from Zaria, Kaduna State, who were heading to a wedding in Kwa village. The attackers set their bus on fire, at least 13 people and injuring others. The Plateau State Police Command responded quickly, rescued some victims, and launched an investigation. 22 suspects have been arraigned at the Plateau State High Court in Jos, facing charges of criminal conspiracy, arson, and culpable homicide. 6 other suspects are still at large. The incident has intensified concerns about mob violence and intercommunal tensions in the state, which has a history of such violence. Both Plateau Governor Caleb Mutfwang and Kaduna Governor Ubasani condemned the killings and called for justice. Follow for more. July 12, 2025.